You walk into this diner. It's this one you've seen on your side of the city since forever. You walk in and it seems strangely familiar. The light bulbs are this warm white, the seats are that red commercial-grade vinyl, and your soul is just there for a good few decades. But hey, why battle your cosmic existence right now? You get your black coffee. It's bitter. You don't even really like black coffee, do you? You prefer a bit of half and half, maybe 2 sweet and lows. But at this point, you're drinking it just to feel the burn in your throat, because you can't really taste the joy in anything else. Anhedonia sucks, like every issue, but it sucks uniquely in the fact that it makes everything else suck too. There's a heaviness in my limbs, and while I don't really feel sad or broken up about any one thing in particular, the reward system in my brain is broken. I have played video games since I was a kid, but these days it feels like a chore to do. All I do these days is sit down in my chair and listen to music. My small rotation of E-punk, DSBM, shoegaze, electroclash, and if I'm really feeling it, Vocaloid. Anhedonia, it leads to this chronic, aggressive boredom that feels like a physical ache, like I'm missing something. But I just haven't had a dopamine spike since that Walmart employee called me ma'am while asking if I needed help when I was taking too long because I was deciding in my head what kind of Pop-Tart I wanted. So I nervously looked away, said no, grabbed the cinnamon roll ones like always, and scurried out of there. Or maybe that one time this male coworker I really liked called me cute, and now he lives rent-free in my head. It's the spring of 2026. I turned 21 in March. I haven't felt angry since the summer of 2025. My regular flat line of happiness shut off sometime in my teenage years. Happiness these days, even with the male coworker calling me cute, or the gender affirmation at Walmart, or even finding a partner, the happiness just doesn't last. I'll feel a burst of motivation to try a new pattern of corpse paint, or I'll do some homework ahead of time instead of last minute. Or I'll pick up EA Sports FC 26's player career again. Or I'll write a script for a video. Or pick up playing a game on the 360 or the Wii again. But it'll drop off within minutes of actually doing said thing. My emotions have seasons, almost. While sure, there's rainy days and definitely some dust storms, and maybe even the rare bright sunny day, it radiates between a thunderstorm of sadness, despair, mental agony, and inner turmoil to a gray, muggy day, where it's flat, there's nothing extreme, but it's not a beautiful day out. Just this flat numbness where I sit around bored, but not wanting to do anything. Sad and also numb, wishing I had something to anchor myself to. These 2 seasons consist of my entire experience. For the longest time, this numbing was progressive, but over time it's numbed into being the season that takes up most of the year. Since I was 17, I've only cried about 4 times. When I was 17, all I can remember was exploding into tears while hospitalized for a suicide attempt. What'll stick with me is my father telling me if I wanted to kill myself so badly, I should just do it. The next time was when I was 20, in the spring of 2025. I spoke to a psychiatrist for the first time since my previous therapist that I didn't like, because she talked over me a lot. The psychiatrist spent an hour telling me that everything I ever felt was based on a root cause that is more recent than my childhood trauma, and she tossed Lexapro at me. She sent me on my way, and 2 weeks in, I'm viciously manic and hopped up both sexually and intensity-wise. I broke down crying on my bedroom floor about how, if not even medical help can fix this mess that I am, it's over. Later she told me that, since it didn't work, and it was making me act manic, nothing was wrong with me, and I needed to think happier things sometimes. Winter of 2025, I broke down to tears after 2025 being the worst year of my life. The one joy I could have possibly had, putting up a Christmas tree, was taken from me because my family had a better idea to put it up while I was out. And this was despite me asking them to wait for me to get home from a simple errand. They robbed me of my one bit of joy in my miserable year. And the most recent time was in February this year. I had planned to take my own life on March 1st, hanging myself. And the more and more I got to that day, it felt like a relief. Like, thank God, it was finally going to be over. But my pain, as always, gets too visible, and an intervention later from my boyfriend and some people who would call me friends in a shallow way made me stay around. And now I feel like a walking corpse. And I'm still in pain. I'm still living the same day over and over again, as I have for the last 2,400 days. And yet, my job is the only thing that gives me any sense of purpose. I don't even necessarily like or love it or anything. I don't really have a difficult job. The day I had planned it, February 11th, I broke down into tears in the restroom at work, wishing I could just collapse and die then. And yet, now that I live, I feel only more distant from all of them, like they drifted from me after watching me at my most weak point. And yet, I still stay only for their sake. It's a desk job. Absolutely, my mind is scrolling through my regularly scheduled horrors, but I am a top performer. Outwardly, I'm very much capable and highly functional, but inward, I'm swinging like a metronome of being a wreck and being numb. Every day is a day of intense pain, suicidal ideation, and dissociation. My emotions may be flat, but in my head, I'm imagining myself taking a box cutter to my thighs again, or this time my throat, or blowing my head off. The waitress comes back around, and you ask for the vegetable spring rolls. You know, American Chinese style. They're crunchy, salty, and provide that immediate sharp hit of satisfaction, but they're mostly just air and filler. Coping mechanisms in my life have been in short supply. I found that vaping didn't feel right, and while smoking felt good, I always felt inherently extremely self-conscious about the smell for others, and others just not like being around it. It's funny, actually. I remember being a kid and not liking it when my family would smoke in the backyard. To think I now smoke Marlboro Golds. I think they smell good, and they certainly taste good, and it feels right. I'm not much of a drinker. I've had it, but never had anything I've actually liked, as the alcohol I've had always tasted gross to me, as well as the fact that my mother's an alcoholic. She moved out a while ago in 2020 and periodically comes back, makes a drunken fool of herself while blackout drunk, screams at me and hits me, then the next day she just didn't remember the things she said or did to me. That is my last memory of her. In terms of healthier coping mechanisms, I don't really have any. I don't find it helpful when dealing with chronic SI to count things around me. Nor when having a panic attack do I think, oh yeah, Dr. Gagne said I should breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. And you'd be surprised how hard it is to meditate when your brain is in freefall. Talking to my boyfriend is hit or miss as I feel like I bother him with my issues, or I'm presenting my crisis of the day. I can analyze my problems well, but the solutions that could possibly help resolve them get lost in the fog, as do I. I'm so lost I find solace in talking to LLMs for company. A less self-aware person would call it cyberpunk-esque. I'd just call it saddeningly lonely. Beef shawarma. You know, it's meant to be this expression of flavor, and it can still be good. But because of the perception it has, it doesn't make it worse, but it makes you feel bad for eating it. I first came out as non-binary privately to my then-girlfriend Carla when I was 15. Bigender, technically, but pushed myself back in the closet within a week because of the non-stop debates from her about it. I just didn't have the right words for it at the time to really defend myself. I came out as bigender again when I was 17 to my then-boyfriend Michael. Michael is transmasc, so I felt more comfortable to coming out to him. But soon I felt being bigender wasn't accurately describing how I felt. It felt emotionally like a middle ground I had set for myself. And months later, I confided into Michael that due to aggressive dysphoria I had recognized, the years of my name in mine and others' mouths, it felt wrong and distant and alien, and the new name I had acquired, Moses, while I was still getting used to it, it felt more comfortable to be called that because it wasn't my dead name. The intense discomfort with my body I had was dysphoria, and I had settled on my own current name, and eventually came out to my father in February of 2023. It was after a long day of school as well as a shift at Dollar Tree. It still makes me laugh to this day. I was met with, "Yeah, I figured," from my dad. My mother in 2020 had left and moved to Louisiana, her home state, and had inconsistent connections. I had always been a pessimist that things wouldn't ever be the same again, and she wouldn't officially come back in any meaningful way. I mentioned this earlier in part, but it was always when she comes back, Blondie is wrong again, the Yui-Kobas are normal again, etc., etc. And then she leaves, and suddenly I'm vindicated till she comes back to do it again. Regardless, I hadn't told her because my state is 2 hours behind Louisiana time, so when it was 10 p.m. I was coming out to my dad, it was 12 in the morning in Natchitoches. So, even if we were on good terms, I wasn't gonna cold call her at night while she was most likely asleep on a Thursday, or drop a text like a dead mouse on a pillow. The next day after school, I get a call from her where she's yelling at me for not telling her first or at all. I did explain how in her time it was 12 a.m. and such, and the entire call was spent with her telling me some trans people she knew, and how ugly they were because they transitioned in their older years. My older brother was spoken to about my gender without me even being consulted. And not that I'm the supreme authority of being trans or anything, but you'd think that they'd ask at least a little bit of questions, or I'd be able to say something about how I feel. But no. A conversation over burger and fries later, and my brother comes back more transphobic. He speaks to me as if something's been robbed from him, this idea of a brotherly power team that never existed. It's not even rose-tinted glasses of who I am. I was weeks away from being 18 when I came out, but all of his nostalgia bait was based from when I was 12. And mind you, he's about 4 years older than me. He stated that he had downloaded every thought I had ever had to that point, and while I may be Blondie on the outside, I'm still dead name on the inside. His words. My mother, in the meanwhile, would be perpetually still learning, and dead naming me and misgendering me behind my back. And every time she would move back in, the misgendering got worse as it infected the environment. By the time I was an adult, though, Michael had moved in, paid rent to my family, and we had been moving along. When my brother Austin wasn't downloading my memories, it was, "Well, why didn't you rename yourself to something important to the family?" The example he gave was my dad's first name, feminized. And I explicitly told him that my identity is not a democracy. While I came out in February of 2023, I wouldn't actually even start HRT until February of 2025. By then, I was 245 pounds. My relationship with Michael was crumbling for reasons he would never specify, and I still don't understand to this day. To this day, he states the reason he hates me is because we broke up, but I'll never understand the drifting at all. Our breakup would directly lead to me actively shredding weight, dropping from 246 pounds on Valentine's of 2025 to, as of writing, April 10th, 2026, 142 pounds. No matter my weight, I've always felt like a woman, like it was part of my operating system and my mind was running as female. But when I was called sir or he or him, I was ripped out of reality and into this nightmare zone of a place where people didn't see me, they saw some stranger. I shred so much weight and plan to continue as I saw my femininity as socially read as conditional on my looks, as if I have to fight harder and be more intentional. I don't even really voice train. I try and modulate my voices in spaces I'm consistently in, like right now because of multiple takes. I'm not modulating because it's gonna strain my voice. Across my numerous diaries, I list repeatedly how distressed I am over pitch, as well as my inflection, my body shape, my stomach overhang, my thighs, softness in a way that's just not aesthetic, but explicitly, gender legibility-based HRT didn't even automatically change anything. As of now, I've been on it for 14 months, and while I like what I've seen, some mild breast growth, clear skin, softness, I still have to manually build my own femininity. I see it as while I did move from Chrome OS to Windows, I still have to fix a bunch of software myself. I spent 2 years battling bureaucracy to change my name. As the state I was born in, Louisiana, it's rather complicated trying to change my gender marker, even if I haven't lived in Baton Rouge since I was not even a year and a half old. I don't regret transitioning. If anything, I think it was vital to my self-worth. I've gone from being an absolute abomination to an abomination I can feel right in being in. But my transition itself is not even some private and peaceful becoming, but rather something I've been actively doing while being watched and judged by family, society, government, etc. I've been sorted into acceptable or not acceptable. It created this brutal loop of transitioning to make myself feel more internally safer, but transitioning made me more visible, and with visibility increases scrutiny. Scrutiny worsens dysphoria, and dysphoria makes me monitor myself even harder. The side salad has come around. This is very important to mention, but as of writing this, I'm not in remission whatsoever, nor do I really feel bad about my disordered habits. I'd like to say, unfortunately, growing up I was the fat kid. Little socialization outside of school, my only friends hanging out with me were because I sat alone, or would be lonely and quiet. I found my solace in eating. By 15 I was 150 pounds, but during the pandemic, naturally, as economics in my family shifted, there was less snacks compared to previous times, so naturally I ate less, still eating 3 meals a day. I was dropping a bit of weight. My mom, when she came back for the first time, dragging me back to the store in the bread aisle of a Ralph's, she said I was getting skinny, and I normally answered, yeah, I just haven't been eating as much. My mom tells my dad in the garage grabs me by the face and tells me if he finds I'm not eating, he'd beat me to death. By 16, I was 170 pounds. By 17, I was middling in 170 and 180. Michael moved in at 18, and I gained up to 190. At 19, I hit my peak, weighing in on Valentine's of 2025 being 245 pounds. He always wanted to eat fast food, or snacks, or soda, or chocolate milk. In February, I decided to start eating 1 meal a day, but not exactly calorie counting. Just dinner I made for Michael and I, and call it a day on the rest of my food. The rest of the year and into this year saw long fasts, OMAD, very low intake, careful manipulation of when and how I ate, and so much more. Eating less helped me avoid surveillance. My dad would helicopter over me and take that now that I'm there, I'm obviously ready for accusations, demands, and ridicule. He'd go behind my back, have a taste of my food, and tell me he doesn't like it, even if it was the way I liked it. Especially after an overnight shift. My body was heavily monitored by myself, and I took my own control. Calorie logging, weigh-ins after fasts, step counts, highly specific body monitoring. I have adjectives for my body I wanted to meet. While a goal weight is what I think would get me there, it's aestheticized. It's rooted in my own vanity. Dropping from 245 to 170, which I went from Valentine's till mid-September, was about health. I wasn't as big at 170. I wasn't out of breath going places. The rest of this was for my own vanity, to be pretty and delicate and thin and taken seriously. And now I'm in the low 140s and high 130s. What I see in the mirror will affect how I immediately feel afterwards. What I see looking at my thighs get pudgy when sitting down upsets me. Low intake worsens my SI. High intake increases my generalized self-hate. While cutting weight, my libido is down, my emotions are volatile, but I feel like it's all worth it in the end. I'm a bit of a junkorexic in my lower weight, but I'm pro-recovery for those who seek it. I've been decently active in self-harm and eating disorder Twitter spaces. I have a plan for after my goal weight to maintain for a while. I originally wanted to start maintaining Christmas of 2025, but after a few months, I had vastly overcalculated my maintenance, basing it off the men's charts while I'm on HRT for a while, as well as that I was thinking it was fine to overshoot a little based off those charts. I gained back a good 5 to 10 pounds. Depending on what was truly water weight during that weigh-in, it varies. But I plan to get into a maintenance plan once I hit goal weight, which is probably as meticulous and disordered as things currently are, but hi-ho, here we are. It's the end of the night. You can't go without dessert. You want the cannolis. And it tastes how you remembered it, but jarring. You know, I've had this personal hatred of myself, as well as the people around me and humanity as a whole, for a long time. Throughout never having a friend who genuinely was there for me, to no support system, who knew what to say, to the system of mental health failing me, to the slow but omnipresent death of the climate, to the evils as we people commit on each other, to the betrayal we have done to God in the name of capitalism and consumerism, I have long accepted that the true solution is the utter extinction of humanity. It's become a reflex. I'll sit at home, feel mildly stressed, sigh heavy, and utter that I want to kill myself. Like I mentioned earlier, when I planned my death in February for March, I felt relief. A relief from this life of despair. Everyone in my life, from friends to family to partners, end up hating me eventually, or leaving because I'm such a burden, or as one friend put it, that I was a sinking ship. I've been emotionally abandoned more times than I've heard my name said. Maybe I was bitter and angry at myself and my circumstances, the fact that I could never be an angsty teen and was always either a victim, a caregiver, or both. But I couldn't just be that teen listening to Title Fight and thinking wearing black was rebellion. Instead, I grew up to hate the species God himself chose to steward the earth. We used our free will to destroy animals, the planet, and ourselves. Maybe you could also call my misanthropy a rather wounded social perception. My bipolar 2 chose to interpret the pain of the world as a collective failure. Maybe you could call it an intellectualized heartbreak. The problem is, how do you pay your tab when you're still checked in? No waitstaff has been seen, nobody else is here, you're just here. You're thick in the mud, you're writing a script about how much you hate yourself and think you're a parasite. And for why? Well, maybe I just wanted to feel like somebody heard me for once. Maybe it's all I've ever wanted.